fighting over an orange. They both want an orange. And mom comes and says, okay, if you're not going to stop fighting, I'll just cut the orange in half and each give you half. The boy goes and makes orange juice, and the girl takes the peeling and makes a zest for a cake that she's baking. Neither got everything they could have gotten if they would have just stepped back a little bit from where their positions were and had a conversation about their interests. So in a nutshell, that's a lot of what the program that I now direct at UWM does. It's a program called Systems Change and Peace Building. And you might think that systems change and peace building would be something done by attorneys or lawyers or people like that. I'm a fish ecologist that does that because the entry point that I have is trying to say, what is it that people care about? And can you step back from that and talk to them about what it is they care about, what are their values, what are their interests, and then have the conversations to work together to say, what are the different alternatives that might not have been thought about yet? And part of what motivates me to do this is because I've seen so much excellent work that's been done by scientists to create these amazing reports. Now, and I work with Bob Nauta, okay, who wrote the report in here, and I've contributed the data to that. So I'm not dissing that. That's really important data. I'm working with the Lake Management District right now doing bed water monitoring, looking at how the well might be impacting the lake chemistry. So I believe in that natural science. But the whole other part of the social equation is something that has to be brought into that process. So we've started a new institute at UWM. It's been founded by an endowed grant from the William Collins Kohler Foundation to work on creating opportunities to really develop how do we go about making intelligent decisions when we have social conflict, environmental crises, and the disconnect between those. And I don't have to tell any of you that the last, we can say 10 years, 4 years, whatever time period, this has been getting amplified, where people get polarized, they get trenched in their positions, and before they even start talking, they start lawyering up because they want to prepare themselves to eventually go to court, because they figure we can always solve the solution by winning in court. Well, then what do people do? Then they try to get control of the courts, and then it just sort of exacerbates and everything gets amplified. So what we and meaning me and the Institute, and then working with communities, is we say, okay, what is a process that we can put in place that can try to short circuit that immediately going to say, I am going to go to what's called order-based legitimacy. I'm going to get an order to force people to do what I think is right, as opposed to what we call process legitimacy. What is a way that we can build into our institutions a process by which people are able to contribute to the conversation by which that decision is made? Because a lot of times I found out is that people are willing to step back, and I can say this is around the world. I know I was talking to Brian when he was here a little bit more about Northern Ireland and his family's background there. It was Brian, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Brian. He was saying, his family lived right on the border, and lived experience of snipers and all the battles there. It takes something for people to feel that their interests are being listened to, that they have an opportunity to be heard, and that their voice is not being buried by the loudest, strongest voices. Because that's what I've learned over the years. If I work, might does not make right, and that it's the people that need to feel heard that then they get into the process, and then things just sort of change. Now, I'm not saying that things are that serious at Lake Beulah. I'm not saying that at all. As a matter of fact, the reason I think Lake Beulah is an opportunity, and I'm hoping you have a conversation about this, is it's a place where I think there are a lot of people who care about the lake, a lot of people that have not talked to each other about why they care about the lake, and a lot of really great opportunities for Lake Beulah to become a model, not only for what a community can do to ensure an incredible asset is maintained for future generations, but also as a model for other communities in terms of how can we break this cycle of immediately trying to go to the Supreme Court to solve our problems. And that we can basically try to find ways to do it ourselves. It's not a panacea, it's hard work. But if this community, and I talked to the Lake Beulah Management District, talked a little bit with Tom and you team here, this is not a process that I can come in and tell you how it should be done. Because then it doesn't work, it's not sustainable, because then as soon as we leave, it falls apart. It's a process by which you have to get key members of the different groups to come together and they create the process, which our institute will help facilitate, to see, listen, where are there different ways that we can go? It's not trial and error, it's trial and learn. You try things, you learn, and you adapt. So I just want to say that at this stage of my career, given the things I've done, I would love to come back to where my career in Wisconsin started and see if we can kind of bring that circle back around and see if that can help for the next phase of Lake Beulah for the people that come after me and hopefully after you. That's all I have to say. I can answer any questions. I can talk about fish and water quality since I do it. I can talk about sediment and mud. I can talk about the high capacity wells, anything like that. But I'm more interested in getting a conversation about process of who should be part of this conversation. Who has interests, who has a voice that's either being heard or not being heard. Yeah.
I want to comment on what Tim has said. You can tell that he's a quality person. He brings a worldwide perspective to what he's talking about. And I would say that for the LBPIA and the Lake Management District and the other big governmental body here, which is the town, I think this is a huge legacy opportunity for everybody, regardless of what your perspective is on the lake. This is something that it's hard to see things go the way they do sometimes with this fighting and arguing. There's a better way, and Tim, as eloquent as he is, has convinced the Kohler Foundation to endow a chair that can make this happen. So I am, of anything that the LBPIA is doing, just in terms of that, this is the most important thing I've ever seen this organization undertake. And I thank you for coming today. And we got, our board is totally behind it, and I know that the Lake Management District is too. And I hope that you will support this, and if you can find a way to represent your perspective, your particular perspective, to bring yourself into that whole thing. Now there might be comments and things, but that's mine. Very impassioned.
So just from a high level, you look at around the state, a lot of lakes, and you know Lake Beulah really well. Going forward, what do you see as the biggest challenges that most lakes and Lake Beulah face, whether it's growth or runoff or chemical or climate change or whatever you think? But what do you think we ought to have our radar?
Okay, it's different in different parts of the state, and a lot of that depends upon sort of the hydrogeology and climate, because they really are dependent upon climate. It's dependent upon whether the soils, like we're blessed here because we have these glacial till soils, water doesn't run off, so you don't have the serious problem with agricultural runoff that they do, for example, at Fox Lake, just a little north of here. So it's not one thing. The biggest challenge is that the people who deal with all those different pieces are disconnected from each other. They're in silos. The DNR, when I first came here, actually was organized on what they call the basin management district. So you had the fish people and the water people and the groundwater people and all the different people within the DNR as part of the same unit, as part of the basin management units. So they could have kind of integrated conversations. Unfortunately, the politics kind of broke them up, and the DNR was basically fragmented again. So you don't have as much conversation. So the people working on aquatic plants don't necessarily talk to the people working on fish, or the people working on drinking water. And I don't want to say, but I will say it. It's kind of divide and conquer sort of thing, which unfortunately happens. So then it becomes up to the people to say, we want to own the information, and we have to kind of help make the decisions. I mean, unfortunately, our agencies, and this is great people, many of them are my students that are in these positions right now that I train, are in that position of having to try. Somebody asked me before, what is the DNR's position on the hotel? Their hands are oftentimes tied behind their back, okay? They can gather information and data, but sometimes they are not allowed to make the determinations that they think are made. And I apologize, I know it's being recorded here, and somebody may come and kick me on that, but I'll stand by it. maybe this is sort of the privilege of having to sit down chair is I can't necessarily be fired for saying things like that. But I think it's important for the people to recognize is that we have to be more willing to take roles in coming up with recommendations. Because I can tell you if that a unified multi-stakeholder committee of Lake Beulah makes a recommendation to the DNR, and they know that it's from a diverse group, it's not one group trying to shove their perspective through, it has a high chance of becoming policy. So the process can be really cumbersome, it takes work, but there are a lot of different ways that have been developed. It's not like you're trying to say, let's all come together and talk. No, there are structured ways of facilitating these conversations to ensure that all the voices are heard, all of them are integrated in terms of systems mapping and things like that, so people can see what that complexity of the system looks like. It's taking the complexity of the social and ecological systems and trying to figure out how they can work together better. It's not to guarantee that it won't end up in court, but at least people know why it's there. It's not because somebody's pushing their own agenda. So I guess in terms of next steps on this, we're going to just kind of talk to a few different people, try to bring some of the groups together. And I guess, Tom, are you kind of the point person for the LBPIA, or how do you want to work on that?
I guess.
Yeah, Tom has my contact information, and we'll just sort of begin. And probably there will be some online Zoom meetings for people just to kind of talk more about this process, get some more feedback, and then work with the community, with the town if you're interested. Just even have these beginning conversations. It's not a commitment, but it's just the community itself has to be so part of forming the process by which that will happen. I'll make suggestions, multiple suggestions that we can talk about, and then that decision is made, and then it goes forward from there. I didn't go 50 minutes, so I'll stop there unless there are other questions. I appreciate that.
Just contact me or one of the other board members if you have an interest in participating in this from the get-go. I hope you do.
And I'm going to echo what Tom said. I'm very excited to do this project, and also excited that there's grant dollars behind it that are helping support it, and we have someone who's passionate about our own lake that knows the history of it. That I'm not only expecting, but I'm thinking that there's going to be very good things that come with this.
It's a legacy issue.
And this is when I got the position as the chair last year, I get to choose which projects we're going to work on, and this is the one that I thought would be really the one that I would like to sort of use as really the founding project for the institute. So if you're interested, let's make it happen.
Thank you.
We also added on the agenda, we were going to talk about voting rules and etiquette, and Chief Jensen was going to lead that discussion. He had something come up and cannot be with us today, so we're just going to move that to one of the future meetings. We're running a little long today too. Yes.
Can I say something that's sort of like that?
Sure.
Not you, Mr. Tarzan. And I think this is the first summer that we are not going to have a spotter behind the boat that's pulling our tubers and skiers around. And I don't know if this had a state law that was changed.
Yes.
But I think that somehow we should work with the town. We should try to get some sort of amendment or declaration or something where if you are pulling a tuber or anybody behind your boat, you have to have a spotter in the boat to see what's going on. You can't possibly look at the water and behind at the same time and do a good job. Our lake is very odd shaped, so we have a lot of different sections, and there's a lot going on at the same time. There's water skiing, there's swimming, there's sailing, and we need full attention. And we're pulling anybody, not even.
So because you have such a soft voice, I'm gonna repeat what you said, and you let me know if I captured this correctly. So the comment is that the law has changed about whether you need or don't need a spotter in your boat when you're pulling a tube or someone is behind you. And the law has changed that is not a requirement as the wind goes through our papers here. But there's a desire for us to revisit that because of our lake, the shape of the lake, and the number of boats that are out there, that we consider having that remain a requirement that when somebody is tubing, that there is a spotter for safety on the lake. So we will visit that as an organization. Did I capture the essence of what you're requesting?
And you know, I think spotters, there really no age. I don't think you had to be 12 or 14 or whatever. Because it's pretty easy to sit in your boat and say, hey, Phil. You know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we'll add it to our topics of discussion, and we will certainly.
And I think I'll go to the town hall meeting and see what I can.
Okay, yeah, that is more of a town issue.
I think it was in the newsletter about someone who had witnessed two young men on the front of the boat, and
Oh, yeah.
one stood up and fell in. I also witnessed it on Mill Lake with a couple of young kids. I don't think people are aware of that, whether they're new boat owners or even older boat owners. They think they're doing their grandkids, their company, and everyone a favor, from the dog to everyone, and it's just an accident waiting to happen, which, how can we highlight that at the boat launch, or can it be part of, when you have to renew your registration, that it should be, in bold letters, do not, under any circumstances, allow someone there unless they're helping you dock the boat and they know.
Good point.
It's scary.
It is. So the question, we like to talk about that at these meetings, but a lot of times we're preaching to the choir when we do that.
Right.
So the challenge for us is how do we educate and get the awareness, and that's why you saw it, the letter that you did see in the newsletter.
So will the chief and his people running the boats, are they going to address that more? Because it's a regular.
I believe the answer is yes. I don't want to put words into his mouth.
Right.
They're going to be enforcing wherever they can.
Whether they just give them a warning or whatever, but they've gotta know that their kids could be cheered up.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. So, and that's again why we actually had this whole topic of boaters etiquette and rules on the lake, because we hear issue after issue after issue, and it's all about education, education, education. So we will put it on a future agenda. Yes.
And last year I brought up just a short piece of information about boating with sailboats.
Yes. So that was our goal, we were going to address the rules related to the yacht club and sailing and etiquette from that perspective. That's where the etiquette piece really comes in.
Cause I know it's not so much regulations as it is etiquette.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. So if you had to get 3 messages out there to people that they really need to remember as it relates to sailboats and yachting, what are the 3 things that you?
I don't know, I'm the skier. I'm on the speedboat. I don't know what the sailors expect of us.
So the sailboats always, with a capital A, have the right of way.
Right, that ain't.
They are the ones that are in charge, so you need to manage your boat to give them room to do what they need to do.
Milton. Bill Tager can tell you.
Oh, not now.
Yeah, we're not,
I've only been racing sailboats in this lake for 70 years, but I can tell you this, it's waves that stay away, and we occupy an awfully large part of the lake, and we recognize that when we're all out there, and our fleets are just growing and growing and growing. So, just common courtesy, that's all we want.
thank you.
But I don't even know what the routes are, like what the red buoys are, and you're supposed to, you never go through. Even if all the boats are up at the other end? That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, we will have that on an agenda. We'll make sure.
Or what are their routes? What are the red buoys?
Depends on the day. I met your sister.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
One final suggestion, we talked about awareness and things of that nature, and spreading the word, and making people aware of the lake Lake Beulah.
Guys, hold on the
Lake
conversation.
Beulah Management, they do great work too, but there's a really good Facebook page called Lake Beulah Lake Life. And it's got like 900 members. And so, you know, it means something when a message comes from Lake Beulah Protective or Lake Beulah Management, if somebody were to post occasionally things we heard today, or, you know, hot topics that came up, and kind of engage with that group, because it's a very lake-focused group of people that check on it regularly, and it's a pretty popular site. And it's no drama, you know, it's mostly just photos and nice things about what's going on around the water. So anyway, you might consider having a representative now and then post on there messages or meetings or newsletter, letters, or what, you know, articles or whatever.
Can you say again the name of the group?
Lake Beulah Lake Life, I believe it's called.
Lake Beulah Lake Life.
Yes.
Good. Okay, I'm gonna move us to go through the old business and new business. This will go fairly quickly. We already had the discussion from Brian regarding where we're at with things, hot topics related to the hotel proposal. There also was the Booth Lake Initiative, where they were looking at diverting their high water into Lake Beulah and into the watershed that spills into Lake Beulah. As this was also posted in the newsletter, that topic is dead. They've pulled their planning, and that is no longer a topic of discussion or something that they're looking to move forward with. So that is something that we're happy the result is what it is, and that we're not going to be impacted by that. The Healthy Lakes program is a program where we're working with the state to help homeowners do plantings along their shoreline.
I stay on top of
And
it.
this is again,
I've been here
one
since
of the homeowners on another lake
So I've been here a
used
while.
one of these programs to put in plantings that
I own,
kept the geese from
Fred's
coming up
Tap on
onto
the other
their
end of it.
property, and it worked very effectively for them. We
Oh,
have
okay.
not submitted
no
any
problem.
projects. We've been at this program for 2 years now. This year, I have 4 projects that we're looking to move forward with the state to get dollars from them for being able to initiate them on the lake. If you have any interest in this program, and again, there is information on our website that talks about it in more detail, please contact me or one of the board members so that we can have a site visit with you and talk about doing an application. Those need to be filled out and submitted to us, the Lake Association, no later than October, because that we need to do at the end of October, we need to get all of our submittals into the state, and that's what we're targeting for. And we're looking to do half dozen to 10 projects if we have that many. And again, it's a $2,500 grant that you get that is a shared program to do several different improvements to your property that would overall benefit the lake. So I'll say that about that. You heard that as a fundraiser, we were looking at doing a pontoon boat tour to really educate people and show them where the sensitive areas are around Lake Beulah, why they're important, and also just talk about some of the history related to the lake, both from an architectural standpoint and just changes that have occurred over the years. Because of COVID, we weren't able to do that. We postponed it. We agreed that we were so unsure what things were going to transpire like this year that we just pushed that into next year. So look for us to be doing that sometime in the June time frame of next year. We have all the material, literature, everything is ready, set to go, but we will be soliciting, and I have a list of 8 or 10 people who volunteered to be pontoon boat drivers for that event. So we will be looking for participation from members when we do that, but then also from just an involvement standpoint, hoping that you'd be able to support that initiative and encourage others to participate as an educational way for us to get our messaging out to members and do it in a way that's very nice and entertaining at the same time. Okay. Any other questions or things that I missed regarding old business that someone would like to bring up? Yes.
If anybody's interested in getting or viewing the video that I'm shooting here, it'll be on my YouTube channel. My first name is John, last name is STOSS. Feel free to watch it. It's all left open. And it'll also be posted on Informed Citizens for the town of East Troy. So it'll be on there. You can review it, watch it as many times as you want if you want to review something. So just wanted to throw it out there for you.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, moving into new business. One is related to the topic we just talked about. We're revisiting the sensitive areas around the lake. There was a meeting that was held with multiple organizations, the DNR, to talk about what do we need to be doing to continue to preserve these areas and make sure that the designations are done in a way that they're recognized by not only the people who live on the lake, but the DNR body as well. And that discussion went very, very well. The outcome is we're doing plant surveys. We're basically recording the current status of the different sensitive areas that are around the lake. And in the newsletter, there was a little photograph that documented and highlighted where these sensitive areas are on the lake, just so you can refer to that to see which areas that we're talking about. And a lot of times what made them become a sensitive area in the first place was because of the vegetation that resides there, because it's a highly desirable area from a fish spawning standpoint, or it is an area that, if disrupted, could cause other issues around the lake. Like we talked about, the importance of the bottom of the lake and what that all represents to have an overall healthy lake. A lot of times what's happening in these sensitive areas has a very strong impact on the health and the well-being of the entire lake. And that's why they've been designated and are being protected. So this year we will be doing those surveys. We're documenting, because there was some of this work that was done initially when they were determined as sensitive areas, to look to report out what has changed about these areas over the years, and what makes them continue to be sensitive to us, and what can we do to enhance and protect them. So this particular group will continue to do that as a charter. In my fish report, I talked about improving some of the spawning habitat. Almost all of the areas that are being looked at to improve those areas reside in these sensitive areas that exist already today. So that's important work, and we will continue to stay involved and support and be a part of that. Does anyone have any comments to add to that? Questions? Okay. As mentioned earlier regarding the board, we have two board members, Keith and Alyssa, that will have one more meeting with us. And we do have several candidates who have expressed interest in coming onto our board. We're excited to have them join us. At the next meeting, it will be you, the representation that will do the approval of those board members. Several of them are here this morning. I don't want to put them on the spot, but we feel very confident that we have very strong, good candidates to fill those positions to carry on the mission of our organization. So we're very excited about that.
Do you get involved in the needs kind of thing? You need someone who's computer literate or something, and find a director who fits that spot? A marketing person, for example?
Yes, so for instance, Keith, who's leaving, who's done the water quality piece, we're looking to bring somebody on that can fill that role, that has knowledge, expertise, passion for the well-being of the water and the waterways of the lake. So to answer your question, yes. So, and if you are interested in one of those positions and we're unaware of it, please let one of the board members know so that we can make that a part of our consideration as we move forward, because we will be bringing a